This was a really horrific murder that shook the town to its core.
There's been an arrest in the murder of a pizza delivery woman some 8 years ago.
Hi, thanks for calling Domino's.
That phone call to that pizza place lured her to what was going to be her death.
I don't think she ever saw what happened to her coming. She's going through a horrible custody battle right now, and the father of the child is Chad Cobb.
You have an electrical restraint device.
There was overwhelming evidence, literally left on a silver platter about Chad.
There was 3 people there that night, 3 adults. There was Chad, Ashley, and Erica.
I carried out my part of it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it or like he had a gun to my head.
Chad is in prison and Erica is out raising the kids.
And she shacked up with his best friend.
And I think that kept eating at him, and then eventually he'd had enough.
I'm not the one that strangled her, sir.
Would you please repeat that?
I am not the one that strangled her, sir.
It's revenge. That's what he wants, pure and simple. Revenge.
Your wife is in a bar. You said she's unresponsive.
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir. The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Hi, thanks for calling Domino's. We'll be right with you to take your order.
It was an order for a large pepperoni and mushroom pizza, called in by a woman at a nearby office complex.
It was about 11:40 at night, and she told him that, look, we're working late, just come around back and we'll meet you out back.
On duty that night as a Domino's driver was Ashley Biggs, a 25-year-old single mother in a relationship with a girlfriend.
What Ashley did not know at that time is that that phone call to that pizza place lured her to what was going to be her death.
Ashley drives up in her car, pulls around back to deliver the pizza. I don't think she ever saw what happened to her coming.
There was a struggle, change, money was on the ground, there was blood on the ground. We know that she was beaten very badly when she was there.
She was tased in the back. A zip tie was placed around her neck and pulled tight enough that she was not able to survive. She died right there in the parking lot.
When Ashley did not come back from her delivery, the manager at Domino's became worried. He became worried because the place that Ashley went to deliver the pizza was not that far away. So it should not have taken her that long.
So the delivery person starts calling her girlfriend and say, hey, have you heard from Ashley? She's like, no, I haven't heard from her.
The manager at Domino's tried calling back the number that placed the order. No one answered that phone either.
The police come there, they go to the scene, they asked, well, who could have done this? Why would this be? And the girlfriend said, she's going through a horrible custody battle right now, and the father of the child is Chad Cobb.
Chad Cobb, a 34-year-old cable installer who lived in Summit County, Ohio. His brief relationship with Ashley Biggs led to a daughter and years of a bitter custody dispute. The little girl was a big part of his life, according to Chad's mother, Cindy.
Really come into being a man when he was a father. Kind of lost before then, but that's probably his shining moment when he first became a dad.
But the relationship with Ashley fell apart as she declared herself bisexual.
I know that Ashley started seeing other people, other girls. She kind of bounced back and forth between being with Chad or being with girlfriends.
Ashley seemed to be a really nice individual. Some people might say that as a mother, she might have fallen a little bit short because she left her child's life for a period of time.
In fact, Chad was awarded custody after Ashley decided to enlist in the Army and essentially disappeared from her daughter's life.
No phone calls, no letters to see how her daughter was doing. She was just gone from her life.
Then, 6 years later, when the daughter was in first grade, Ashley came back to town and things turned ugly.
Chad went to school to pick up his daughter and found out that there was no daughter to be picked up. They had sent the daughter home with Ashley.
A local magistrate had awarded custody of the little girl to Ashley, apparently without ever notifying Chad of the decision.
Matter of fact, the police had to be there because the daughter did not recognize her mom, did not want to go with her because she didn't know who she was, and I guess the police had to tell her, no, this is your biological mom. It is okay for you to go with her. Just sent this child with virtually a complete stranger.
By this time, Chad Cobb had married. He and his wife, Erica, had 3 other children, plus the daughter from Ashley. Chad and Erica were desperate to keep all 4 children together, but the court kept siding with Ashley over her daughter.
Yeah, from Chad's perspective, I think he did get a raw deal. I mean, he was the primary custodian of this young girl. She was all he knew. He was losing control, losing custody, losing contact with his daughter. That was a source of real fear and frustration and a great deal of concern that if he didn't do something, something bad would happen to his children.
He was out of money for the custody attorney, not getting anywhere with the courts. One of his last conversations with me was he was going to turn custody over. He didn't know what else to do.
2 days later, Ashley Biggs was dead. Her abandoned car discovered in a farm field. Her brutally beaten body inside.
She was in the back seat, partially on the seat and on the floorboard in the back.
For Detective Michael Hitchens, Chad Cobb was immediately the prime suspect.
So we started looking at Chad and trying to find out where he was.
Police ultimately found one of his cars, a Lincoln Navigator, parked at his grandparents' home.
Chad wasn't in the car. He was actually hiding in the woods when the officer came up.
But in the car was Chad Cobb's wife, Erica, and his 4 children, including the daughter he had with Ashley.
A little strange to be out there at 3 or 4 in the morning, hiding behind a garage behind your grandparents' house. And most people wouldn't be out that late at night having their kids sitting behind a barn.
We then did a search warrant of his home. He had a backpack with all the equipment in it, the zip ties, all kinds of stuff. And in that, we found Ashley's blood on many of those different items.
There was overwhelming evidence, literally left on a silver platter about Chad.
Chad Cobb was charged with first-degree murder, a brutal, premeditated murder that made him, under Ohio law, a prime candidate for the death penalty.
It was a tough case. This wasn't a case that we felt we could go to trial and do well on.
Don Malarczyk is one of the state's leading defense lawyers in capital punishment cases.
Our number one goal was to avoid the death penalty. That was clear. We talked about the time where the government might want to execute Chad and how old his kids would be. I said, Chad, you need to be there for your kids. And that was the driving force. Chad wanted to be some type of father, some type of positive influence for his kids, and he accepted a deal for life without the possibility of parole.
The murder of Ashley Biggs had been solved. The killer sent to prison for life. But there were many unanswered questions. Had someone else helped Chad Cobb hide Ashley's body and car in the farm field? Who was the woman who ordered the Domino's pizza? Detective Michael Hitchens was not ready to close the books on this one until he found out who that was.
I wasn't giving up on it. Like I say, I got a few years left before I decided to retire, and it was going to stay with me until that happened.
New Franklin's kind of a sleepy town, quiet, pretty crime-free.
It is a village of 14,000 people with grand homes on a beautiful lake. It likes to boast it is one of the 100 safest cities in America. So the brutal murder of Ashley Biggs was a shock.
This was a really horrific murder that shook the town to its core.
It was just awful.
But with the arrest and guilty plea of Chad Cobb, it appeared the murder of Ashley Biggs had been solved, and the village could breathe a sigh of relief. But not for Detective Michael Hitchens of the town's small police department.
No, I haven't given up. The case was still sitting next to my desk in a box. all these years.
He was convinced Chad Cobb did not act alone and refused to close the case.
I don't like to give up, it's about the best way I could say.
As the detective returned in daylight again and again to the scene of the crime, the office complex where Ashley Biggs had been lured with a fake pizza order, he became focused on who called in that order.
We knew there was a female caller that called and ordered the pizza at the beginning of this, so we knew that there was probably a female involved.
Cobb's wife, Erica, had been taken into custody the night of the murder.
They definitely thought she was involved right from the start.
But there was no evidence to tie her to the crime scene, and she was released.
There was nothing else that we could find at the time. It was strictly a phone call by a female that was unknown, used a fake name, obviously, from what we found out.
And Cobb remained silent when asked about Erica, whether his wife had a role in the murder.
He did not bring a word up about Erica. He didn't offer any insight to her involvement at all.
We clearly felt like he was taking the deal to protect her.
But Detective Hitchens was able to determine that the phone call to Domino's was made from a so-called burner phone, with cellular minutes purchased at a nearby Walmart.
They were purchased a couple days prior and put on the card the same day.
And when he pulled the security camera footage from that Walmart, bingo.
But Chad Cobb was in the video along with his children, and then Erica was there with them as well.
He was getting closer.
I needed someone to start talking. I was just waiting for that break because usually everybody talks to somebody eventually.
Cobb was now in state prison.
I decided to go up and visit him and talk to him and see if he was willing to talk to me yet, and he was not ready at the time.
The detective was also monitoring Erica's Facebook page and was surprised to see this post suggesting she had no remorse over the murder of Ashley Biggs.
It was a picture of O.J. Simpson, and it said 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. It made me think that there was some definitely underlying problems, and she did not care for the deceased.
But then, a surprise. Erica, no longer a blonde, was pregnant, and the father was not Chad.
She shacked up with his best friend,
Mike Stefanko.
Unbelievable. Erica got together with Mike shortly after Chad went to jail. First, she told me she didn't know whose it was, that she had gotten drunk and had just picked up some guys. And then later on, we found out that, she had been with Mike and they had been together for some time.
Cobb felt betrayed, and from prison, he signed divorce papers.
She kind of wanted to stay married to Chad and just have Mike on the outside, and Chad was like, "No, you're my wife. I'm not sharing you."
And then a final straw when his daughter with Ashley, now a teenager living with Erica, revealed how she was being treated by Erica.
It's not something that I want to think about all the time. It's sad just to listen to everything.
With her grandmother Cindy present, the daughter agreed to her only television interview about the case and Erica.
She was my stepmom, and I did call her mom. She was physically and mentally abusive, and I was told not to tell anybody or else she would do worse.
But she decided to tell her father in a handwritten letter sent to him in prison.
Loving Father, I hope that this doesn't make you cry because it makes me.
Describing the cruelty she said she suffered, including being put in a dog cage.
I can remember being locked in the cage one time. She caught me saying your name and crying. She pinned me to the wall and screamed in my face. Put me on the floor. She put her left knee on my stomach, her right on my throat. Then her hands one over the other, my mouth. Sometimes I just thought that I was gonna die because I didn't know if she was gonna let up.
The daughter he had tried to protect from suspected abuse by killing her mother, Ashley, was now telling Cobb she was being harmed by her stepmother, Erica.
When I was sure that she was gone, I would stop and sit against the wall, saying, "Daddy, please come home now. I need you. God, please make my daddy come home now. Love you."
Chad had a hard time believing Erica did what she did. He was just floored.
As he sat in prison, doing life, Chad decided he could take no more, and that Erica had to pay for her betrayals.
It just keeps eating at him that she's living in my house. She's living with my best friend that I grew up with. They had a child together while I was in jail, and he is raising my children, and I think that kept eating at him, and then eventually he'd had enough.
And I think he finally got tired of carrying around Erica's guilt.
Ultimately, he wrote me a letter and said it would behoove me to talk to his mom, and I could come back down and talk to him some more.
Having betrayed her husband, Erica was now about to be betrayed by him.
It's just been a terrible nightmare. And things that you really think shouldn't happen have happened.
4 years after the crime, the secrets of who else was involved in the murder of Ashley Biggs remained secret, and the mystery remained unsolved.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, Chad's fully innocent. I don't know the full story. There was 3 people there that night, 3 adults. There was Chad, Ashley, and Erica. Those are the 3 that know the story.
And Chad Cobb's mother, Cindy, was determined to know the story, the full story.
Ashley can no longer speak, obviously. Chad is very remorseful for what happened.
So Cindy's focus was now very much on Erica, Chad's ex-wife. She was alive and well, now married to Chad's best friend, Mike, living with him in the house Chad had bought, raising Chad's 3 children, and to the anguish of Cindy, denying her regular visits with her grandchildren.
Cindy Cobb, Chad's mom, was very devoted to her grandchildren. And the idea that Erica would somehow get in between her and her grandchildren was something that Cindy Cobb, I believe, would never tolerate and would go to whatever lengths she could to make sure that that did not happen.
So, on a chilly spring night, Cindy Cobb invited Erica to come over to her remodeled barn with a living room and a bar. Erica thinking they could patch things up, unaware she was walking into a trap.
I think part of the big impetus of her going to talk to Cindy was to convince her to kind of intercede between her and Chad and say, Chad, you know, let it go. Let it go. And that's not what happened. Quite the opposite happened.
All secretly recorded by Cindy.
If you want pop, or I'll take some of the stronger stuff if there's any available.
Cindy began by pouring Erica a vodka for what would be a 2.5-hour chat. A tiny digital recorder Cindy put on the coffee table went unnoticed.
There was a bunch of stuff on the table. It was just in the mess of stuff.
The conversation started with the children.
Is that I would like to raise my children, our children, and the one that is not his. And I don't want to go to prison.
I didn't really have a goal. It was just a spur of the moment.
And then, after about 90 minutes, Erica began to open up about that night, with Cindy reminding her of what she had said earlier about making the call to order the pizza.
You told me face to face that you made the phone call and you set the meeting up. I mean, you had told me. And there's no lie in that. Like I said, Chad said this is what we're going to do, and this is your part in it, and I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it, or like he had a gun to my head. It was because he said this is your part, and this is what you're going to do. Which is how it always was when we did something we were supposed to do.
I just kind of let her talk. Wasn't expecting, what the conversation was going to be. Had I been smart, I would have asked questions.
But Erica did not need to be asked about the victim, saying she had no regrets over the brutal murder of Ashley Biggs.
Do I feel bad about what happened to her? Not really. Do I feel bad about what happened to everybody else? Absolutely. Would I take it back if I could? Yes, I would.
And then Erica talked about living with a guilty conscience.
You can't really function in everyday life if you're looking over your shoulder every second. Every time I hear a siren, I think they're coming for me. And that's something that I'm going to live with.
The tape was a bombshell, everything Cindy Cobb hoped it would be. But instead of turning it over to the police, Cindy Cobb put it away in a safe, and she says, did not listen to it for 4 years. Ammunition for a future use.
Really didn't think about it.
But over those next 4 years, as Chad Cobb, in prison, continued to get reports of his ex-wife Erica and his best friend Mike with his kids, on vacation, in his house. And then there was the letter from his daughter about her mistreatment at the hands of Erica. For Chad Cobb, the time had come for that tape to come out of the safe.
Chad is in prison and Erica is out raising the kids, and he, did a lot of soul searching and rethinking, why he is doing what he is doing, not telling on Erica.
So finally, now almost 8 years after the murder, the turning point. A message came from the state prison. Chad Cobb wants to talk.
So the most important thing we got out of that meeting was he said, you really need to go to talk to my mom. So Detective Hitchings then went to talk to Cindy Cobb. And when he talked to Cindy Cobb, she said, well, I recorded a conversation with her, and would you like to have it? And he said, I'd love to have it.
My gut told me that she was involved, but some of the stuff that was on that tape recording.
And I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do.
Made me really believe how much she was involved and knew about it.
Including this stunning description.
He would get this look on his face and be like, yeah, if this goes through and I can do this, I'm gonna keep her skull as a trophy.
Obviously, if you personally would know that you're gonna kill somebody if you're planning on keeping their skull.
At the Summit County, Ohio prosecutor's office, pure joy.
As a prosecutor, 20 years, you do not come across items such as that.
Well, when I heard the tape, I knew that we probably had enough to get not only an indictment, but we had a pretty good shot at getting a conviction at that point.
Including Erica's admission she could have stopped the murder if she wanted to, but did not.
He foolishly threw the ball in his court, let him make the determination as to whether he was capable to do something that I should have had the good sense to know you just don't ever try to do.
She was just unadulterated, pure Erica. And if you listen to that tape, you will get a real insight to who Erica Stefanko is.
And I did everything he told me to do, and I gave it up.
That tape was our proverbial smoking gun.
But there were still gaps in the evidence needed to charge Erica.
There's no physical evidence that tied Erica to it. No blood, no DNA, no nothing.
Making a phone call to order a pizza is definitely not enough to convict someone of murder.
So prosecutors would need the help of Chad Cobb doing life in prison, and he at first tried to use his help as leverage for a reduced sentence.
From the get-go, we told him there's no deals. You're going to do life in prison, and we're not changing that.
The same message was delivered to Cobb's mother, Cindy, who prosecutors also would need to testify to authenticate the tape.
So we approached Cindy and said, listen, your son is not going to benefit from this in any way. So you got to just let that go. So if you want to help us still, we'd love to have you help us. We want to see Erica get her just due. And she thankfully did the right thing and said yes.
There's been an arrest in the murder of a pizza delivery woman some 8 years ago. Erica Stefanko was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder. Her ex-husband, Chad Cobb, is already serving a life sentence for the murder.
Then she just kept quiet and put the cuffs on, and she sat in the back of the car. She didn't say another word.
After looking over her shoulder, listening for those sirens for the last 8 years, Erica's worst nightmare had come true.
Every time I hear a siren, I think they're coming for me.
She don't have to look over her shoulder anymore.
But making an arrest was one step. Actually getting a conviction with no physical evidence would be quite another.
Attorney Easter, are you ready to proceed?
I am, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. You may.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury.
Prosecutor Felicia Easter's opening in the murder trial of Erica Stefanko was forceful and straight to the point.
This murder of Ashley Biggs could not have happened if Erica Stefanko and Chad Cobb did not work together. It was planned together and it was carried out together.
This was one of the first jury trials in Ohio since the pandemic lockdown, and the prosecutor was worried the COVID-19 precautions might blunt the power of her delivery.
Having a trial during a pandemic and having to wear masks and or shields, my voice doesn't carry during trial. My voice tends to drop.
And prosecutors were also concerned that Erica, wearing a mask, would hardly come across as a stone-cold killer.
We're like, look, she can sit there and look all innocent and sweet as pie. The problem is, as soon as we play that tape of her saying things like, I did not feel bad for Ashley.
Do I feel bad about what happened to her? Not really.
I almost think it heightens how angry people will look at her.
And the prosecutors made it clear the tape was the centerpiece of the case.
You're gonna hear it straight from Erica Stefanko's mouth, because it's her voice on the recording. During that secretly taped conversation, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want you to please keep in mind complicity. Because again, whether or not you choose to label Erica as the principal or the accomplice, she is still guilty of aggravated murder, kidnapping, and aggravated robbery.
We did not need to prove he did it or that she did it. We just needed to know that they did it together and that one of them did it.
All right, Attorney O'Brien?
Erica Stefanko's lead lawyer, Kerry O'Brien, sought to portray his client as the victim of a vendetta by her ex-husband, Chad Cobb, who was expected to testify from prison.
He's stewing in that prison. And now he's trying to get out from under full responsibility. Because he wants to drag somebody else down to his level. He wants to get out of prison early. He wants his sentence shortened. Someone that took the mother of his daughter, ambushed her, beat her, and strangled her. And you are going to determine how much truth is in his statement.
To get the tape of Erica into evidence, the prosecution needed the testimony of the woman who secretly recorded it, Chad Cobb's mother, Cindy. She invoked the Ohio law that keeps the witness's face from being broadcast.
And at any time, did you alter that, change it, or give it to anyone else to alter or change?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to start this first clip.
And for most of the morning of the second day of the trial, the jury heard one clip
I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do.
after another clip of Erica discussing the crime with Cindy.
I did everything he told me to do, and I didn't give it up.
That was the case, that tape, and as often as we could show it, play it, repeat it, that was the goal in that case. That was our strength.
It happened that we both be in prison right now. I don't disagree with that. That's totally the truth.
So here she's talking about the truth coming out, and what does she tell you?
That if the truth were to be told, that they would both be in prison right now.
Do you see that individual in the courtroom here today?
Yes, sir.
Could you please point her out and describe what she's wearing?
She's sitting in front of me with the white polka dot shirt and black pants. You know, it's something you don't ever think you're going to have to do, putting somebody in prison.
Thank you. Your Honor, we'd ask that the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
But Cindy Cobb's day was far from over as Erica's lawyer launched an aggressive cross-examination.
I'll take some of the stronger stuff if there's any available.
Starting with a suggestion she had tried to ply Erica with liquor.
Did you know Erica to start drinking heavily after Chad went to prison?
I knew she drank.
How many drinks do you think you offered Erica during that 3-hour period?
I believe it was only one.
So Erica, who had been drinking heavily, only wanted one drink in a 3-hour meeting with you at your place.
Best to my knowledge.
Is it safe to say that you don't like Erica Stefanko? Is that fair to say that?
We had a working relationship for the kids. She might not be my favorite person. I don't hate her.
Okay. think I used the phrase, you don't like her. Is that a fair way of putting it?
After what's transpired, that'd be fair. You know, if she had a hand in it, which she did, then I guess it shouldn't just be Chad that's, you know, paying the price.
To this day, you're hoping some way, somehow, to get Chad out of prison. Is that correct?
I would hope to one day.
And with that, the court connected to a live feed from the Ohio State Bureau of Prisons.
My name is Chad Cobb, and my last name is spelled C-O-B-B.
Prosecutors knew his testimony was a necessary risk.
We still had to prove the murder happened, and Chad helped us do that. So the weakness was that even though he told us what happened, we didn't really believe all of what he told us.
But the key point was that he could testify it was Erica who made the fateful call to Domino's, linking her to the planning of the crime.
And I remember she ordered a pizza. And I remember it struck me as bizarre because she ordered a half pepperoni and mushroom pizza.
And when she ordered the pizza...
She was smiling.
I'm sorry?
She was smiling.
And then his description of what happened in that dark parking lot when Ashley showed up with the pizza.
How did Ashley respond when she saw you there?
Worked up.
And I'm assuming you were not surprised that she was worked up.
With everything that was going on, looking back, she wasn't happy to see me, that's for certain.
Is it fair to say that Ashley did not leave that parking lot alive that night?
Yes, sir, that is accurate.
For Erica's lawyer now, the cross-examination of Chad Cobb would be crucial.
Okay, we're going to conclude your testimony here today.
And his testimony the next morning would let the jury decide whether Chad Cobb was a remorseful killer telling the truth or a betrayed husband determined to bring down his ex-wife at any cost.
Chad Cobb himself is going to undergo cross-examination from the big house, from the pen, from the state prison.
A last desperate effort by Cobb to get his revenge.
Well, Chad really doesn't have a legal way to get out of prison before he dies.
But with his testimony about the murder of Ashley Biggs, he did have a way, a final way, to get even with his ex-wife, Erica.
He was going to use it as a platform. He was going to minimize his involvement in that he's blaming Erica for actually killing her.
And it came during the cross-examination by Erica's defense lawyer, Carrie O'Brien, as Chad Cobb denied what he had previously admitted, that he killed Erica.
Did you strangle her?
I'm not the one who strangled her, sir.
Would you please repeat that?
I am not the one that strangled her, sir.
I see. So now you pled guilty, and now you're saying that you didn't kill her. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
It kind of threw us for a loop.
Would the jury believe him, or would it undercut his credibility about Erica's role?
Yeah, I mean, I think the jury is confused by Chad Cobb's testimony because the fact that, you know, he in fact said he did kill and then he said he didn't.
So now prosecutors needed someone to corroborate the testimony of Chad Cobb about the pizza call, his teenage daughter, the daughter of the victim.
The reason we wanted her was because she had heard the phone call that Erica made to order the pizza.
She was half asleep in the back seat of the family SUV on the night of the murder, 7 years old at the time.
All right. GC, if you don't mind, if you would raise your right hand.
Her face was not broadcast, and she was referred to only by her initials.
Tell us about the phone call.
I can remember her, and I remember hearing it but not seeing it. And I know she ordered a pizza. I don't remember what she said that was on it. And I can remember that she did not use her name.
And of course, she didn't know the significance of that until sometime later. And now she knows that that was the call that lured her mother to her death.
All that Erica's lawyer could do on cross-examination was to show that she still had a motive to help her father, even though he had killed her mother.
Do you still love your dad?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to see him get out of prison soon?
Yeah, he's my dad.
And then a final shot at Erica on the redirect.
So Mr. O'Brien asked you if the purpose of you being here was to help your father, and you indicated it was not. So why are you here?
Because Erica didn't treat me right and nobody really knew about it.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we are here to hold this defendant, Erica Stefanko, accountable for the actions she chose to take on June 20th through June 21st, 2012.
More than 8 years had passed since the night Ashley Biggs was murdered.
You have duct tape.
Prosecutor Felicia Easter needed to take the jury back in time to the horror of that night.
You have a electrical restraint device, as Dr. Kohler calls it, a taser. You have gloves with knuckles, the hardened knuckles. You have a sheath knife.
Erica showed little emotion.
I mean, her big thing during the trial was that she sat with a photograph of her kids and husband, kind of a family photo in front of her the whole time, and would kind of look at that longingly.
She knew why it was going to happen. It was that custody battle. It was retaliation. She made the call to Domino's that lured Ashley Biggs to her death.
And then clip after clip of that secretly recorded tape of Erica, her own incriminating words.
I carried out my part in it. I did exactly what he told me to do. And it wasn't because he was forcing me to do it or like he had a gun to my head.
That is very important. That passage right there speaks volumes. Erica Stefanko was in for a penny. Erica Stefanko was in for a pound. She committed this murder with Chad Cobb. She was there with him every step of the way.
The defense had made the decision not to put Erica Stefanko on the stand.
And simply putting your client up on the stand to say, I didn't do these things, it's just too risky.
And so it was up to her lawyer, Carrie O'Brien, to poke as many holes as possible in the tape in which she seemed to admit her role to Cindy Cobb.
So, we have this conversation which is secretly taped. And if she's not trying to get her son out of jail by some reason, or any reason, why is she taping the conversation? On cross-examination, we asked Cindy if she knew that Erica had been known to take a few drinks. How many drinks did you serve Erica that day?
I believe it was only one.
Oh, just one. Here's a woman that is used to drinking a six-pack of Smirnoff. Cindy has her there for 3 hours and I believe 1 minute. And she only serves her one drink.
And then an effort to cast some doubt on the testimony from Chad's daughter, who had said it was Erica who placed the fateful pizza order.
Now, I'm not going to pick on a 15-year-old. But let's talk a little bit about GC right now. When this incident happened, she's 7 years old. And 8 years later, he comes into this courtroom and describes with unusual detail about this phone call. Yet, she tells us she was asleep the rest of the time. Ladies and gentlemen, I would argue that Erika Stefanko is not guilty, but I would also argue that Chad Cobb has put together a plot not only to sink her, but his real reason here is it's revenge. That's what he wants, pure and simple. Revenge.
The prosecution expected a quick verdict, but that did not happen.
As a prosecutor, the longer it goes, the more doubt you put in your own mind. But we knew it was going to be tough.
The jury was out for 3 days.
All rise.
Before finally indicating they had reached a verdict.
So with that, then, I would like to have the forms handed to me, please.
You always feel your heart beating through your chest.
The jury has found the defendant, Erika Stefanko, guilty of the offense of aggravated murder, signed by all 12, dated the 25th day of November 2020.
Prosecutors said justice had been done finally.
It's been 8 years. It's been a long haul.
The daughter whose mother was murdered, whose father is in prison for life, was relieved.
I was glad that she was found guilty. If she would have been let loose, then I'd be scared for my life and everybody else in my life.
Erika Stefanko faced life in prison, bringing to an end a tragic family saga that left 4 children with parents either in prison or dead, and the scars of love and hate, betrayal and revenge.
The court is now in recess. Thank you.
She was last seen in her home over in the town of Pittsfield. That is the last day that Victoria Prokopovitz was seen alive.
Where could she be?
Volunteers started showing up here at 9 o'clock this morning.
We've got K9 units out, the horses out, boots on the ground.
There were so many different scenarios that might have happened. Did she take off? Did she just leave? Did she commit suicide?
We contacted Interpol. We contacted TSA. She wasn't coming up anywhere.
The individuals who are last seen with a victim would be number 1 on the list.
Down the steps. Honey!
There had been a history of mental health and suicide attempts.
And that's when she made the statement, next time nobody's gonna find her.
Yeah, she was very angry.
If you guys think I did something, you're gonna arrest me and haul me in. Because I didn't.
I do believe that she's in those sludge ponds. Something would go into it and it would actually disintegrate.
You know, we didn't have a body. How do you prove something without a body?
The answers would bring my mom back. But they would allow us to grieve and to heal.
Okay, your wife is in a bar, you said she's unresponsive?
This is what he's going to tell you.
How to get out of that situation.
And I grabbed the gun.
Trying to find the first place to put a body.
No, sir. The only thing they could do was kill him.
You want to say anything? We, the jury, and to find the defendant.
Where is Victoria? And why can't we find her? What happened to her?
It began as a missing persons case and a search for 63-year-old Victoria Prokopovitz.
She was characterized as a homebody. She really stayed at home. She hadn't been working.
A mother, a grandmother, a very caring person, certainly an individual who had issues.
She was reported by her husband to have wandered off in the middle of a moonlit night from her home in Brown County, Wisconsin.
It's a very rural area, a lot of farms around there. The area the Prokopovitzes lived in, it was an old farmstead. I don't believe it was an active farm. Not exactly a place where you'd just go out and take walks along a busy road.
Volunteers started showing up here at 9 o'clock this morning.
We've got K9 units out, the horses out, boots on the ground, boats with sonar and cameras, so we've got it all covered.
She has a history of depression, but her family has no idea why she just vanished.
Her 3 children, Marcia, Stacy, and Wes, were there around the clock.
We're hoping we get some sort of answer today. Prepared for maybe not a good answer, but it would be an answer.
Marcia was heartbroken. Your mom goes missing, you never get to say goodbye.
Brown County Homicide Detective Roman Ehrenstein took charge of the case, joined later by Jay Yergis, a special agent with the Wisconsin Department of Justice.
They had exhausted their immediate efforts to be able to locate this individual within the immediate area.
We contacted Interpol, we contacted TSA, the United States Marshal Service. She wasn't coming up anywhere.
She had lack of transportation, access to money. I began to start having some concerns that this is indeed an adult female that was endangered.
We started to do forensic interviews.
Victoria's husband of 24 years, Jim, was the last person known to have seen Victoria alive, and he was repeatedly questioned over the years about what happened that night.
To your best recollection, where in the house was the last time you physically saw her? Right here in the kitchen when I walked into the bedroom. And that was at 8:39. About 8:30, 9 o'clock.
He went to bed the night before, and when he woke up, he found her to be missing. He indicated that he searched for his wife.
Do exactly what you did. Yeah, I walked over here, I said, "Honey!" Okay. She didn't answer. Okay, then go ahead. Then I went here, went down in the basement. Go ahead. Thought she was down here. Turn the light on. Down the steps. Honey! Okay. I walked over here, I think it was. I don't remember this. Here first. Look. I walked over here, opened this door. It wasn't open. I looked in here. If she was in here. Okay. Did something. Nothing here. Okay, then what happened?
This is such a crucial time. This is a time in the middle of the night when you're up before you need to be up to go to work. You're the only one home. You're indicating you're looking for your wife. This is such a critical piece of timeline for you. I want to understand that. I want to understand everything that I can.
And then, Jim, do you remember if she's not answering to your yells? Do you remember why it is that you felt the importance to look in every spot?
Because she tried to kill herself down here in the basement once. That's why.
Okay.
It's that simple.
Yep. So you were looking.
I found her in that room.
Okay. So you were looking to see if she was in distress.
Yes, I was.
Okay. Okay. That's why we're asking.
That's
why
what I was looking for. I thought if she tried something, maybe I could find her in time.
So there had been a history of mental health and suicide attempts. As the investigation progressed into the months and years moving forward, we did start looking into that. Interestingly enough, those incidents were dated. They were many, many years old.
But after one of the suicide attempts, detectives did learn of an ominous statement from Victoria to one of her daughters.
The statement that she'd made is next time I do this, nobody will ever find me.
Over the course of years of interviews, Jim Prokopovitz mentioned that repeatedly to the detectives.
My gut feeling says she found some place to do it, and we're not going to find her. That's my gut feeling.
He was definitely pushing that as a narrative. He was pushing that with law enforcement. He was pushing that with searchers and strangers, and really anybody that would listen.
The only reason I'm assuming she went and did it is she attempted 3 times with me. He said if she was going to do it again, she was going to do it, but nobody would find her. Jim, it's hard to hide your own body.
He exhibited a level of confidence that she wouldn't be found. He inquired about taking her off his insurance.
So we knew from the get-go that something wasn't right with respect to Jim's version of what had happened.
And as the search for Victoria went cold after several years and detectives continued to press Prokopovitz, he grew increasingly frustrated with the detectives' push for details.
No. Okay, but it was at 3.5 years ago. You're asking me where I sat at a kitchen table? My God, man! And you're asking me what kind of... Do you pay attention to what your wife wears every time she gets dressed? If you do, you're a good man, but...
No, the simple answer to that, Jim, is I don't. However...
Yeah, I know you don't. But say, God forbid, something would happen to your wife. Would you be able to tell everybody what she had on? Or what she wore? If you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in. Because I didn't.
At the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember you.
As the years went by since Victoria Prokopovitz disappeared, the day on which she went missing was always remembered.
For she is a part of us, as we remember her. Amen.
Her daughter, Marcia, never let up on the search.
She just wanted to know what happened to her mom, and she was doing everything she could. I mean, she created a missing persons organization for families also going through the same thing she was going through. She got the month of April declared Missing Persons Awareness Month, a special day proclaimed for her mom.
Marcia also started a foundation for missing people, and she's helped people across the country with respect to that.
But in the search for her own mother, there was no progress.
A number of miles further west.
And for detectives Roman Ehrenstein and Jay Yergis, the case became what is known as a no-body homicide.
Unlike a scenario where you have a body in a crime scene and it's clear that the death had occurred at the hands of another, in this particular case, not having the body, we don't have that information.
Victoria's husband Jim remained under suspicion, but her adult son Wes, who had lived with his mom and Jim, was also closely looked at.
I've learned in my career that everybody's a suspect until they're not. And significantly, the individuals who are last seen with a victim would be number one on the list.
Wes had gone out that night and returned home around 4 a.m. after his mother had vanished.
So we looked very long and hard at Wes until we were able to conclusively find through forensics on his telephone, statements from other eyewitnesses, that alibied the possibility out that he was involved in any way in her disappearance.
Frustrated by the lack of progress, Victoria's children brought in a private detective and former police officer, Larry Warwick, hoping he could finally get some answers.
They suspected possibly Jim, their stepfather, had something to do with it, but they didn't know. And that's basically why they wanted me to assist them, to help, to find out.
And right away, Warwick got Jim Prokopovitz to sit down with him at the kitchen table.
I want you to pretend that I don't know anything about this, okay? You know what I mean?
All right.
Okay, so what do you think happened?
I don't know. I do know she told Stacy, next time I do it, nobody's gonna find me.
He had mentioned to the family, either to the family or the police, that he had an argument with Vicky on the way home from the psychiatrist's office that day, the day that she went missing. And I asked him...
Do you remember having an argument with her in the truck on the way home?
No.
No. Just like that, 3 times. We refer to that as the rule of 3. When someone denies something vehemently 3 times, it's almost 100% indication of deception. So to me, that argument was probably a catalyst for what occurred later on, which probably, the argument probably escalated, which resulted in Victoria's death.
So, you know the police are looking at you.
Oh, I know they are.
Yeah.
I know they are.
Yeah.
Did you do anything to Vicky?
No, I didn't. I did not do nothing to that woman, son of a bitch. I loved her.
Okay. Now, who says that woman about their wife? It really shows some distance and some anger toward her. And then he began to sob. He began to cry. I don't mean to upset you. But I got to ask the question.
I know. I know they think I did something to her. The only thing I could have done different was lock her up in a rubber room to keep her from hurting herself.
But for the detectives, the most significant questions were about a new girlfriend, Kathy Friday, who he began to see within weeks of Victoria's disappearance.
We have to understand, how did this relationship begin? When did it begin?
It all started at an Indian casino, according to Prokopovitz. He told the detectives he had run into Kathy Friday just by chance after not being in contact for years.
Walked into the casino. I was walking around looking for a machine to play, and I thought I recognized her. And I walked up and I said, "You look familiar." And then at first she didn't recognize me, and then she did. When I
been a long time, like 20 years or what?
Almost 30 years.
30 years, yeah, of course.
There was nothing that was pre-planned, nothing that was set up. He just happened to be there, and he noticed this woman that he hadn't seen in 30 years and recognized her and approached her.
But in his interview with the private detective, Prokopovitz told a much different story.
Okay. You have a relationship with her now?
Yes, I do.
So after you married Vicky, you never had an intimate relationship with her?
No. I call her once every 2 years, 3 years.
Once every 2, every 3 years. A small but telling difference.
So once again, he's mixing up his lies. He's forgetting who he told what to.
It would be a turning point in the case, and now detectives Ehrenstein and Jurgis began to dig into Prokopovitz's relationship with Kathy Friday and why he was lying about it.
Could this potentially be a motivation or a reason of why Victoria is no longer with us?
With the results of the private detective's interview in hand and other new leads, the detectives were slowly but surely turning up the heat on James Prokopovitz.
Just one thing that I noticed is that you seem to be upset by our presence. Is it?
No, I'm not upset. It's just.
Were you nervous about us coming?
No, I wasn't nervous.
Okay.
I wasn't nervous. I got nothing to hide.
Jim felt that it would be enough to say he went to bed, my wife was there, I woke up, my wife was no longer there, and that there wouldn't be any more scrutiny to that.
When we are here to try to help bring answers to you about the woman that you say you love.
I did and I do.
I believe that. We want to give you those answers.
So they had him go through her closets to see if any clothing was missing.
Clothes? Yep, there's clothes. Now you tell me how I'm supposed to remember.
No, I don't know. I don't. You know, look.
They had him show where he searched on the property.
Walked around in here a little bit, didn't see her hollering all the time. That's when I jumped in the truck.
And then they went with him in his truck as he retraced the route he said he took searching for Victoria.
I'm hoping I'd find her at the Shell station. I drove by here, I didn't go in.
Making a point that he drove through this Shell gas station.
Window, see if anybody was there. Didn't see anybody. There was no cars here, no nothing here.
Gotcha. Okay.
Went around.
Well, why is this important? Why am I going into so much detail on that? Well, back in 2013, I had actually collected video at that particular gas station. And at the end of the day, Jim's truck never makes it past that gas station like he said it did.
And when we discovered that that was not at all what happened, that wasn't accurate, that was a big lie.
3.5 years after Victoria Prokopovitz disappeared, police served a search warrant on the home, infuriating Jim.
Me too?
Yes. Thanks, Jim.
Want to smell my seat? I don't want to talk to anybody anymore. I almost wish I was dead right now. I'm getting so tired of this that I'm 71. I hope the hell I have a damn heart attack and die.
You feel like hurting yourself, Jim?
Huh? No, I don't feel like hurting myself. I wish I'd go to bed one night and never wake up. That's what I wish right now. I'm tired of worrying. I wish you guys would find her. Somewhere, somehow, I wish you'd find her.
But the detectives were not deterred by their suspect's outburst. Doubling down on the efforts to prove the story about the casino meeting between Prokopovitz and his new girlfriend Kathy was also a lie.
And then we went out and drove crisscross the state, and we interviewed dozens of individuals.
We began to poke holes into that story, and we just didn't feel that likely happened.
It turns out that the meeting was pre-planned. It wasn't at the casino, but a nearby truck stop. It happened within weeks of Victoria's disappearance.
So prosecutors convened what is called in Wisconsin an evidentiary hearing, held in secret, much like a grand jury.
And we wanted to put them on record to try to get at the truth of what that chance encounter really was.
Both Jim and Kathy and many other people took the stand over a number of weeks during these evidentiary hearings, and it became clear that both Jim and Kathy were not telling the truth, and both were taken into custody.
Jim? Yeah. Can I come in?
Yeah. It was some 6 years after his wife had disappeared, and now that he and his lover Kathy faced charges of perjury, detectives hoped Prokopovitz might finally crack.
Essentially been lying to Roman and I for a long time. Today he lied on the stand to the judge, the court, okay?
Is that accurate, Jim?
Yeah. Well, I lied about how we met.
Did you know that lying to us was wrong and illegal?
Yeah, in a way. I mean, didn't feel good. No, but...
So what about the lie that he searched for his wife that night, driving past the Shell gas station?
That didn't happen, Jim. You know what I'm saying?
What didn't happen?
You weren't at that station.
I swear I went by the station and didn't see anybody or anything.
Well, you can see a certain amount of road with the cameras, though.
You swear to God I was by there. By that station.
It didn't happen, Joe. That didn't happen. Because video doesn't lie, Jim. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
His demeanor and concern was solely focused on Kathy. He said he would do and say anything he needed to just to absolve her of any responsibility.
You need to tell us what the heck happened so that we can clear her and get her.
Honest to God, Jay, she had nothing to do with it.
Vicky's dead.
Yes.
She's not here.
She's not here. I don't know if she's dead. I don't.
She doesn't go poof.
I know
You were the last one to see her. You were the last one with her.
Don't.
You were the last one to hear her.
I don't know. If I knew, I'd tell you right now.
Go.
I'd tell you right now because I don't want Kathy in trouble.
You don't want to be caught. You didn't want to be caught today on the stand.
And you lied.
All right. You don't want to be caught now.
Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. There, I killed her. Kathy had nothing to do with it.
My impression was that he wanted to see how that would sound out loud. That was my impression. He wanted to see maybe what my reaction would be after all these years if he was to verbalize the fact that he killed his wife. And that's what he did, but he recanted thereafter.
I don't know where she is.
Tell me how you killed her. No,
I don't know how I killed her.
Tell me how you killed her.
I didn't. So I
Did you
can't
use
tell
your
you.
hands? Did you
I can't tell you. I don't know.
But it was more than enough to charge him with perjury, obstruction of justice, and murder.
And we're about to get into the opening statements. Again, this jury is 9 women, 6 men. Let's go live.
It had been almost 18 months since James Prokopovitz had been arrested, and all that time in custody awaiting trial had affected his appearance.
It was very different person that we were seeing when he appeared in court. He would walk in pretty slowly, sometimes kind of shuffling into court. He looked older, frail.
And there had been another tragedy in Prokopovitz's life, the suicide of his girlfriend, Kathy Friday, who had been convicted of perjury in the case and was awaiting sentencing.
And there was going to be a recommendation for some incarceration time. And that was not something that she later had left a note indicating that was not something she was willing to live with.
There was no evidence Kathy Friday had knowledge of what happened to Victoria Prokopovitz, but her relationship with Jim was still going to be an important part of the prosecution's case.
She was his motive for getting rid of Victoria, that he loved her and had a very intense relationship with her.
Prosecutor Caleb Saunders handled the opening.
2,854 days. That is the last day that Victoria Prokopovitz was seen alive.
Recounting for the jury 8 years of fruitless searches by law enforcement, friends, and family to find Victoria.
You'll hear the defendant did not assist in those searches. You'll hear he, in some occasions, sat in his recliner and was drinking beer. Searchers are reporting overhearing comments like this. You will never find her. She's not there. You're wasting your time searching that area.
And Saunders told the jury the prosecution planned to play long sections of the taped law enforcement interviews of Prokopovitz, full of half-truths and lies about how he searched for his wife.
I drove by here.
How and when he began his relationship with Kathy Friday.
Walked into the casino, I was walking around looking.
And how he quickly recanted his own confession.
Okay, I'll admit, I killed her. There.
The truth in this case is in the lies. The truth, if you carefully consider the evidence in this case, the state believes you'll find the truth in this case is that the defendant killed Vicky, and that he's guilty of all 4 charged offenses. Thank you.
But the prosecution team knew it faced 2 very difficult hurdles in its case against Prokopovitz.
You know, we didn't have a body, and that's still a challenge for some people to get around. How do you prove something without a body? And I think that was always something that was in the back of the jury's head.
And prosecutors also had to deal with Victoria's history of mental illness.
We had a victim who had a prior history of attempting to take her life. So what also made it unique that I've never heard of another case is that she would have made a statement, the next time I do this, you're not going to find me.
And that became a central theme for defense lawyer John D'Angelo.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, next time, no one will find me. That was a statement that Victoria Prokopovitz stated to her family the second time she tried to commit suicide. I'm going to state it again. Next time, no one will find me.
And D'Angelo tried to use his client's age and appearance to his advantage.
The state wants you to believe that my client, at 68 years old, perfectly executed his wife's murder to the point that nobody can find her. You're not going to hear how it happened. You're not going to know when it happened. You're not going to have proof of a body. A 68-year-old man got rid of his wife, a grown woman, so perfectly that the house wasn't disturbed. I leave you with this. Next time, no one will find me. Victoria's own words.
For the prosecution, there were no more important witnesses than Victoria's 3 children, Marcia, Wes, and Stacy, who started by recalling her stepfather's seeming indifference to her mother's disappearance.
Sometimes he'll step outside and see what's going on. Other times he'll be in the house. He was watching the NASCAR race.
Was he drinking anything?
He had a beer.
Was it ever brought to your attention that there was really kind of discussed by some of the people that saw this?
Yes.
but she was also an important witness for the defense. She was the daughter who heard Victoria's dramatic statement after a suicide attempt in 2002, some 19 years earlier.
She was upset that she was found after her suicide attempt.
Yes.
And that's when she made the statement, next time nobody's gonna find her.
Yes, she was very angry.
When did you tell anybody about that statement?
I told Jim about that statement when I was walking home from work after Mom had gone missing, and we were talking on the phone. And I had said, Mom had said you would never find me next time.
At this time, the state would call Wesley Edges to the stand.
Wes was asked about the night when he last saw his mother alive.
I remember a confrontation about Jim not wanting to go to the dollar store for, I believe it was a tablecloth.
Let me stop you there. So you're saying a confrontation. Who is that between?
My mom and Jim.
On the day that your mom went missing, was there an item that she left behind that was significant?
Her purse.
The purse she always kept with her to keep her phone and cigarettes nearby.
Wes, do you miss your mom?
Yes, I do.
I have no further questions.
The heartbreak still raw even 8 years after she disappeared.
It's so vivid, it's so palpable what he's gone through in this case, and the family has just been so consistent, so persistent in trying to find their mom.
The last of Victoria's children to testify was Marcia.
Now, Marcia, you referred to your mother, Victoria. Have you seen your mother since April 25th, 26th of 2013?
No.
Has there ever been any credible information that hasn't been explored regarding the fact that your mother is still living?
Everything's been explored.
She testified she began to suspect her stepfather from almost the first day.
And he's like, I don't know what we're gonna do with all of her Look at all this stuff. This place is too big for 2 people. And then he said, I know she didn't want an obituary. And he said, we're gonna have to call up a U-Haul or something like that to take all this stuff to Goodwill.
And how did you feel about a comment like that from him?
Well, we didn't know where my mom was, so that was confusing. And the only thing I knew is in the pit of my stomach is I thought something's not right.
And then, even as the search was still going on for her mother, she learned about the relationship with Kathy Friday.
It wasn't like he just met her, but that he'd known her for years. And that we would really like her, that she had 2 kids our age, and that had he known that she got divorced, he'd have never married my mom.
But all of the things that he is telling you at this time, they come as a surprise?
Yeah, it felt like a dagger in my heart.
And this experience with respect to it, has this been devastating for you in your life?
It has been terrible. I stopped living for a long time, and every day did something to get the word out about my mom missing for years.
When somebody like that is missing in your life, is one of the issues the fact that you're still just always looking?
Always looking. Okay. When I drive down the road, I'm looking in the ditch, even if it's someplace that I know that I can't possibly be.
You're always looking for Vicky.
Always looking.
Now, Marcia, through the years, until this happened with your mom, how would you describe your relationship with Jim as a stepfather to you?
I called him Dad. He walked me down the aisle. My dad was still alive, but I asked him to walk me down the aisle. I listed him as my dad in my wedding announcement. I looked up to him.
I have no further questions.
But for all of the emotionally packed testimony, the state still had not presented any hard evidence that James Prokopovitz was a murderer, or that there even had been a murder.
If I was a juror sitting on that case and I was forced to make a decision right then, I would find this defendant not guilty.
Thank you. You may be seated. You can start the video.
Detective Roman Ehrenstein took the stand to introduce the hours and hours of contentious interviews with James Prokopovitz.
Or, if you guys think I did something, arrest me and haul me in, because I didn't.
I note that he reacts with outbursts and denials that are angry quite often.
As the tapes played, Prokopovitz made a point of not looking at the courtroom screen.
Down the steps. Honey! Okay.
And then the pivotal ride-along scene in the truck, driving through a nearby Shell gas station where he said he had looked for Victoria.
Just go by and look through the window, see if anybody was there. We didn't see anybody. There was no cars here, no nothing.
The concern was that he wasn't being truthful about that account. I had collected surveillance video from that particular gas station as part of this investigation. Mr. Prokopovitz's vehicle was not at that gas station on the morning of April 26, 2013, as he had indicated here.
And then finally, to his relationship with Kathy Friday, and the fact that he and she had lied about when and how it started.
I had implored her to be truthful with me. I had indicated to her the seriousness of this investigation, that it was a death investigation, and that I believe that she may be a motive for Mr. Prokopovitz having killed his wife, and I needed her to be truthful with me. But it turns out that she continued to be dishonest with law enforcement.
Other than when you have contacted Mr. Prokopovitz, has Jim Prokopovitz come forward to law enforcement at any time to offer assistance with respect to his wife Victoria and her disappearance?
Never.
I have nothing further.
The issue surrounding the gas station was the most concrete and significant evidence of Prokopovitz's lying, and his lawyer, John D'Angelo, knew he had to try to undercut the testimony of Detective Ehrenstein.
He could have been mistaken that he drove through that Shell station. Maybe he thought he did, but maybe he really didn't. True?
No, that's not true. He was either in that parking lot, which was disproven by evidence, or he lied to me about being in that parking lot in the morning where he indicated he was there searching for his wife.
Could it be possible that he was at a different gas station, but he thought it was that one?
So the clear answer is no, it's not probable. I would say that it's not reasonable or probable that he was thinking of another gas station as opposed to that specific gas station.
It's not reasonable, but it's not impossible.
Object, asked and answered 3 times, Your Honor.
I think his answer was a little bit...
Overruled.
Thank you. It's not reasonable, but it's not impossible.
So I think we're playing semantics.
Question,
I'm sorry?
It's a yes or no question. Is it not impossible?
It's not reasonable, it's not probable, therefore I believe it's impossible.
The defense called no witnesses, and it was straight to the closing argument.
How do you know who's telling the truth? And how do you know who's giving you a line of bull? It's something you see every day, and it's not difficult to see where the truth is. Because this case, ladies and gentlemen, as we said from the beginning, that the truth is in the lies. It's the lies that Jim spun. It's the lies that he told to everyone. It's probably at some point the lies he started trying to convince himself had occurred. The best evidence in this case has now become the defendant himself.
Attorney D'Angelo, you may present defense closing arguments.
Next time, nobody will find me. Those are the words of Victoria Prokopovitz. Those are the words that ring true in this case. Next time, you won't find me. She was wearing black pants, a white shirt. She put on her shoes and she went for a walk. That's the simplest answer. She went for a walk. The state says, well, no evidence is evidence. No, no evidence is no evidence. Jim doesn't have to prove his innocent. He starts being innocent. At the end of the day, you're going to look at your notes. You remember the testimony. And you're going to see that the state took 2 weeks to prove nothing. At the end of the day, you're going to find my client not guilty.
The jury was out over 20 hours. I hadn't ever had one this long.
Breaking news tonight. We have a verdict in the trial of James Prokopovitz.
All right, would you hand the verdicts to the bailiff at this time? As to the offense of first-degree intentional homicide, as charged in count 1 of the second amended information, we, the jury, find the defendant, James M. Prokopovitz, the verdict has been marked guilty.
And then guilty of the 3 additional charges of perjury and obstruction of justice.
It was just the result of 8 years of hard investigative work that kind of in totality added up to the truth. So there was joy.
But for the family, there was still no answer to the question of what happened to their mother. Where was Victoria? The billboards had been up before and after the trial.
So the only thing I want is her body. That's it.
And detectives had even offered Prokopovitz a deal before the trial if he would tell them where she was. But he was defiant.
Roman, if I could her body, I'd give it to you. I don't know where it is.
Oh, that's colorful. You want to your wife's body?
Oh, you
that's
know.
colorful.
The working theory was that he put her body in some nearby sludge ponds where the company he worked for dumped toxic materials.
Jim, what would happen to a body if you put it in those sludge ponds where you worked?
I don't know. You'd probably never find it.
I do believe that she's in those sludge ponds. Something would go into it and it would actually disintegrate. Law enforcement made attempts to find out if they could dredge these ponds in any way and be able to find Victoria, and were told that wasn't possible.
So, at Jim Prokopovitz's sentencing hearing, Victoria's 2 daughters begged their stepfather to reveal his secret.
She doesn't deserve what happened to her. Will we ever know? I'm asking for the truth. I'm asking for justice for my mom, Vicky. She didn't deserve to have this kind of ending. I want to give her peace.
It's hard for my heart to accept that Jim has withheld that information from us. We deserve the truth, and it's time for Jim to tell us the truth. I hope and pray he'll take responsibility for his actions and tell us where our mom is. Without those answers, our mom remains missing, and we will continue searching. I would even ask that if he were to tell us where she is, that if he gave us the answers we need, that you be lenient in your sentence. The answers won't bring my mom back, but they would allow us to grieve and to heal. And I would hope that with time, we could find forgiveness and peace in this tragedy. Without these answers, we don't have closure.
But Prokopovitz remained silent.
He's the only person that we believe would know, and I don't know if he'll ever say.
James Prokopovitz received the maximum sentence possible, life in prison with no possibility of parole, taking his secret with him of what happened to Victoria.